and welcome to the 28th of Decem-Baron 2020. For these last few days, I've honestly struggled a bit to know what to, chat about for the last few days of the month, because I ran out of D&D stories that I wanted to share. I couldn't think of a lot of, I could think of a few poetry things that I could read to you guys, but I thought that today I would just, take a few minutes to share some more cool Star Wars stuff that I have in my home. First of all are these 5 books here. So they are the Jedi Path, Book of Sith, Imperial Handbook, the Bounty Hunter's Guide, and Smuggler's Guide. I think this is the order that they're published, actually. So these are basically meant to be in-universe books in the Star Wars universe. For example, the Jedi Path. This is meant to be a handbook for Jedi in training, basically training at the Jedi Temple. What I love, if you know anything about Serendipitous, you know that I am a sucker for fictional lore, for the lore of fictional characters in fictional universes. And these books are chock full of I don't know if they're necessarily meant to I guess they expand on the lore a bit, but it's mostly something maybe there are a few things, I don't know. I haven't looked very, very deeply into all of these, but they're just fun, lore artifacts to have. This book here shows that this was owned by a line of legendary Padawans and Masters, starting with Master Yoda. Then we have Thame Cerulean. Then we have Count Dooku, who was the master. So Yoda, who I believe was the master of Thame Cerulean, who was the master of Count Dooku, who was the master of Qui-Gon Jinn, who was the master of Obi-Wan Kenobi, who was the master of Anakin Skywalker, who was the master of Ahsoka Tano, and then, it was the master of Ahsoka Tano, and then somehow Darth Sidious got his hands on this, and then finally Luke Skywalker. And there's a note in the very beginning about how the Rebel Alliance got it. I am sorry about the noise. I thought it was over. This was happening earlier today. I think they're doing some work on the floor upstairs, so I had hoped to record when they were done with all this, so a bit annoying. Hope you can bear with me here. Oh well. It was quiet for a little while. Anyway, just a lot of fun stuff. I'm not going to go too deep into these books or whatever. I just thought I'd show them in general. But you see that there are a lot of notes by all these different people. Just all kinds of small little things. For example, we see that Yoda underlined the phrase Grandmaster, and he said, "Honored am I to be among its bearers." Or we have this phrase, "The Order was at last defeated by the Sith." And the Darth Sidious says, "Really? It appears that Darth Bane's philosophy of concealment was wise for its time." And all kinds of things. The Jedi Order followed the hierarchy to aid in the flow of command. Darth Sidious added typical Jedi inefficiencies. And then when they talk about Jedi ranks, Anakin noted, "If I skipped Initiate, can I skip Padawan too? I'm already ready for the trials." Here's something hilarious. So in the table of contents here, you see here the prophecy of the Chosen One. All right. Now that's something that I was always rather interested in, because they keep talking about the Chosen One in the prequel trilogy, right? And that Anakin was the Chosen One, blah blah blah. And so I went straight to page 13. I'm like, ooh, what's the prophecy? And yeah. So far I haven't seen any way to really read it, even going in the light or whatever. It's just right over the text there. Luke Skywalker did make a note here saying, "These pages were already defaced when the book came into my possession. I don't know who tried to suppress the prophecy, but it was most likely the Emperor." There's just lots of things in here, in joining a clan, different lightsaber stances, becoming an apprentice, what the trials are like, lightsabers, their construction and use, different forms, stuff like that. Creatures, what the different trials are: trial of the flesh, trial of insight, exceptions to Jedi trials, the knighting ceremony, being a Jedi Knight, roles and duties, all kinds of things. Basically, just like the handbook given to those in, training to be Jedi, essentially. So here's an interesting one. Forbidden Force techniques. Forbidden is circled here, and there's a note by Darth Sidious that says, "Yes, the Jedi limit the Sith embrace, and now we have unlimited power." And then we have notes from Anakin and Ahsoka here. Anakin said, "Is it really that dangerous? How can it be a dark side move if you just lift somebody?" Talking about the Force grip. And then Ahsoka said, "By their neck," and he lectures me about my anger. So, but yeah, they, just really cool, like, it's a Jedi book, and it's really, it's just kind of fun to, look at all the different notes made. I believe, like, in the real world, this book was, I don't know, like, I think someone made this book, I can't remember, but yeah. So then the next thing is something really fascinating: the Book of Sith. So in universe, apparently, there's only one copy. There's a note here. By the way, one interesting thing is that there seem to be different sections in here. Like, you can even tell by the edges of these. The edges are different with each section. So you can kind of see it's sort of like a compilation of texts. And so here's a note from Luke here. Each recovered text has its own texture and size. We'll never know what the complete books look like. These pages are all that remain. So these are basically have a lot of notes by Luke, as well as by Darth Sidious as well. So these are just compiled texts of different there's a section by the Night Sisters in here. Let's see. Oh yeah, here's a note from Darth Sidious. At the time I wrote these words... Oh wait. Yeah, so there's like a preface by Darth Sidious. Luke said, "From the context, I believe Palpatine assembled this volume soon after declaring himself Emperor, sometime around 19 to 18 BBY, which is before the Battle of Yavin." Darth Sidious says, "At the time I wrote these words, I hoped my empire would provide limitless reach, yet I must still rely on others to do my bidding. And they are so often foolish, flawed, and disappointing." But yeah. So let's see, what are the different excerpts in here? I've bound the recovered pages from works of these great Sith Lords in one volume, Palpatine says. These relics are unique and irreplaceable. They are the Book of Sith. So first we have apparently Sora's Sin's Chronicle of the Rise of the Sith Empire, the oldest text by many thousands of years. Then next we have excerpts from the Journal of Darth Malgus, who kept during the Great Galactic War some 36 centuries ago previously. Then we have Darth Bane's Rule of Two, which was a keystone of the Sith Order for centuries. Next, the next text that he recovered were penned by Sith, but Wild Power by Mother Talzin relates to another dark side group, the Night Sisters. And then there's a text by Darth Plagueis about his research notes. And then finally, there is a section by Palpatine himself. Let's see. The stories of the previous authors ended, but my reign is just beginning. By melding the core truths of the dark side found in these texts, I've set forth the Book of Anger, the weakness of inferiors, and the manipulation of life. So, yeah. A lot of this stuff is, unless you get into the rule of, once you get into the Rule of Two, that's more of like the sort of like the Sith Handbook. Night Sisters are cool if you're familiar with some of that, and with Dathomir and everything. What more Star Wars fans may recognize, though, are, there's The Science of Creating Life by Darth Plagueis. And there are a couple of very interesting notes in here. One by Luke here. The element that Plagueis couldn't measure is the will of the Force. The Jedi hear this call, and I believe the Sith do too. I don't think the Force felt compelled to speak to Plagueis. Let's see. Darth Sidious has a note here saying, "I do not share my former master's enthusiasm for process. I care only for results." There's a Okay, so yeah, so there's a note in here. So people have speculated about how Anakin was born, right? Because Anakin's mother, Shmi Skywalker, said that basically like Anakin just developed in her womb, um, uh, just like that. She said there was no father. Um, she doesn't know what happened, and but here are notes from Darth Plagueis in here. Um, Noting about concentrating the force. He says this, but I believe that by using this method, I can trick midichlorians into creating a zygote. When it then it would simply be a matter of growing the subject under normal biological conditions. Such a subject could, of course, take years to hit the developmental milestone of a typical humanoid, but he could be a midichlorian. He could have a midichlorian count as high as 20,000 per cell. That is more than any Jedi or Sith in recorded history. Although entirely theoretical, such an achievement is intriguing. If new life could be created where none existed before, the living could sustain their bodies indefinitely. Science had led to these conclusions, yet these secrets must be guarded with utmost care. For now, it remains purely theoretical. Then Luke wrote this. I can't help feeling a chill as I read this account by Plagueis, knowing that my father was known for his high midichlorian count, which was supposedly even higher than Yoda's. Interesting. So yeah, more stuff. Like basically, like Darth Plagueis was trying to uncover the science behind the Force. Now we have the section by Darth Sidious titled "Absolute Power." Yeah, he notes, looking back on these words from a remove of nearly 20 years, I should have moved more quickly in silencing the Senate. That contemptible body became a cesspool of grandstanding simpletons. And yeah, just more stuff by Palpatine and like hiding in plain sight, the Book of Anger, the manipulation of life, things like that. So very fascinating stuff right there. Next we have the Imperial Handbook. This was yet another. The story goes that the Republic recovered a copy of this handbook, and so here we see more into like what a handbook for the Empire looks like. And so we see notes by different people from the Republic, right? For example, this little note about interrogation. So talking about the different sections of the Empire, there's an interrogation section. The agents assigned to question captured subjects for information with a much higher success rate than the interrogators of Imperial intelligence. And then Leia notes, it's what they don't say that's so chilling. There's some Imperial policies of smugglers. The incident at Nar Shaddaa is fresh in our memories. However, Han Solo said, the incident? We kicked their tails. So, yeah, it's the Imperial Navy. TIE pilot. Han. I've worn one of these. After a few hours in a cockpit, the stink of sweat and the hissing of the breathing tubes is enough to drive anybody crazy. So yeah, and then they show like the insignia, all kinds of cool things, innovations on Imperial naval tactics, like the different ships and so forth. History of the Imperial Navy. They have some like propaganda in here. Trying to see like what really interesting things might be in here. Mounted creatures, academies and training. Note by Han. Don't pick up an abandoned stormtrooper helmet if a Wookiee recently passed that way. There might still be a head inside of it. Oh yeah, talking about the different weapons. There's one called the E11. And Han says, I've seen drunken drawls who shoot straighter than the E11. There's also like a wanted section as well. Let me see if I can try to find that. Oh yeah, the Rebellion, active threats. Let me try to find that. Oh, here we go. Yeah, high value targets, right? We got Admiral Akbar. I got a Bossk here. We got Senator Organa, Senator Mon Mothma, Aaron Kraken, um, Jan Dodona. I don't recognize him. And then we have Carlist Recon. I don't know. Anyway, Medine has a note in here saying, "Fifth billing behind Bel Iblis? You're slipping, old friend." Here's a note here about Bail Organa. Note, his daughter Leia Organa holds the current Senate seat from Alderaan and is a suspected provocator. Leia notes, "I'd like to think I moved up a few rankings in the years since this appeared." So, yeah. Also some cool like schematics of the different ships and the Death Star and so forth. But yeah, concluding note from His Imperial Majesty. And then also I think there's like a foreword by His Imperial Majesty as well. So really cool. These next two are more recent acquisitions. The Bounty Hunter Code. So this was so let me see here. I think some of these books were put together before Disney. Okay, so this was put together after Disney. I see the Disney logo in this one. So let's see here. Basically, this is a book that was recovered from the Slave One ship, Boba Fett's ship. So this belonged to Jango and Boba Fett, as well as maybe a few others. Let's see here. Contents of the book. Fett's Bounty Hunters Guild Handbook contains handwritten notes from Boba Fett and the bounty hunters Greedo, Bossk, and Dengar, and General Solo. But yeah. There's also a section that has a Death Watch. There's also a Death Watch manifesto, which includes handwritten comments from Boba Fett, Jango Fett, Aurra Sing, and the Weequay pirate Honda Onaka. So, yeah. There's a note at the beginning of this by Boba Fett. Dengar gave me this copy of the handbook. Bossk and Greedo must have owned it before him. Their notes are written throughout. Knowing what the guild is up to and how they do business has proven useful to me. So I don't know much. I'm not familiar with Bossk or Dengar, but I do recognize Greedo as well. So there are a few fun little notes in here. Just kind of about, being a bounty hunter and like what being part of the Bounty Hunters Guild is all about. Then there's a section in here about the Death Watch, which I think that's a Mandalorian section or something. Here we go. A note from Jango on the Death Watch thing. For you, my son, a glimpse into the minds of my enemies. And then Boba said, for you, my daughter, may you begin to understand. Yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of things that a lot of like books or comics or whatever that are kind of like connected to this that I'm not too aware of. The only like Star Wars that I'm most aware of are, of course, the main movies, Rogue One, Solo, The Mandalorian, and Star Wars Rebels. And then finally, we have this one. This is the most recent one. This was made in 2019, and so this actually includes. I'm sure they're having fun up there. I hope you can ignore that. Anyway, this actually includes stuff from The Force Awakens, like Star Wars Episode 7, as well as the movie Solo. So there's that. Yeah, Smuggler's Guide. I'm pretty sure this is basically a guide that's been handed down from one smuggler to another. And so you just have all sorts of things from like, it began as a simple logbook containing a piece of invaluable information, but it was soon stolen, traded, and smuggled throughout the Outer Rim and shady ports by such notorious characters as Maz Kanata, Hondo Onaka, Dryden Voss, and Lando Calrissian until it ultimately ended up in the hands of Han Solo. And so there are just like different sections. There aren't as many handwritten notes in this one. It's just sort of like, each like smuggler or person like put their own section in here. Essentially, I haven't looked at very deeply into this, so I don't know so I'm not 100% sure what all is in here. The stuff that I recognize though is recognize the most though is towards the end. Let me see here. Yeah, so this is what tells me that like you have Force Awakens and what was the next one? Episode 8 was darn it, what was it called? Dang it! Totally forgot what Star Wars Episode 8 was called. The Last Jedi. Right. Because you have like this this person with the rose, something or other. Master Codebreaker makes a few notes in here. So, for example, oh yeah, so these are notes from the Master Codebreaker himself. So, yeah. Yeah. And here we have Han Solo and Chewbacca. It's an operator's license in the Republic, essentially. And here's a note from Han. It ain't fair. I've got to get a new image taken every few years, but Chewie hasn't aged a day. To Wookiees, we humans are basically pets. I told him that if he takes another life debt after I check out, I'm going to come back and haunt him. That's something you can do with the Force, isn't it? I'm assuming that's kind of like a reference to the whole, like, that's not how the Force works. And then you have, like, Han Solo's dice there. And then the final page is by Leia herself, actually. I'll read it in full, because I think it's fun. Oh, Han, you beautiful, intractable idiot. Paging through this book is like meeting you all over again. The outlaw braggart, the reluctant rebel. You infuriated me and you know it. And you knew it. How many times did I threaten to throw you out of the airlock or dump you on a dead moon? But who other than a stubborn scoundrel like you could have pushed through my carefully crafted shields to reach the heartbroken orphan on the other side? After Alderaan, I swore I'd never get close to anyone again, and then there you were, with your arrogance and that smirk, and yes, I'll admit it, those tight pants. I never had a chance, did I? I had you pegged the moment I laid eyes on you, an outlaw, a troublemaker, a reprobate. Did you know that they say you can learn a lot about a person by the company they keep? If this logbook is any indication, I was right all along. I know what you'd say to that. You'd tell me that someone's character shouldn't be defined by their line of work. And I'd probably agree with you, out of habit, even though the proof of your words would be standing right there in front of me. You spent a lifetime running away from your regrets, Han. I see that they started to weigh on you toward the end, and I wish I could talk to you one more time. I'd tell you that regrets aren't something to be ashamed of. They were a chance to step back and take stock of your life before moving forward once more. Regrets allow you to see with compassion, to understand what others have made. To understand that others have made your same mistakes. I know you always wondered, and the answer is no. I never regretted our time together. I loved you, Nerf herder, I still do. The Falcon, she's Chewie's ship now, and Rey reminds me so much of you. Not a single credit to her name, but she's got enough guts to take on the galaxy. I'm putting this logbook back into the Falcon where it will keep sailing on. It couldn't ask for better caretakers. So long, Flyboy. Force willing, we'll see each other again. Leia. So... yeah, so there's that. I really like books like this. They're really cool. I guess it's just like, you know, having like artifacts or pieces of like in like real like things in the world or whatever. Actually, and that, I mean that reminds me of another one of another something kind of similar to those things. For another franchise, League of Legends. There's a board game called Tellstones, and you can buy it. It's basically a game that's actually played in Demacia, which is a kingdom in the League of Legends world, Runeterra. I know a bit about League of Legends lore. I'm certainly not... there's a person named Necrit, who is like the master of... a master, if not the master of League of Legends lore. So I know a little bit. I know some basics here and there, and I thought Tellstones would be fun to have, because it's a fun game, and it's like something in the world, right? I really like those kinds of things. I suppose, could you really expect anything any less from me, I suppose? But that's all I had to say and share and whatever. Yeah, just fun things like that. Not 100% sure what I'm going to do. Well, actually, I do have a plan for the next 3 days. We'll see, you know, whether you enjoy them or not. I certainly enjoy them, and but yeah, it's been a fun month so far, and I look forward to finishing off strong. So thank you for being here, thank you for listening, and until next time, all the best.